All right, welcome to the Biologically Inclined Podcast, Episode 1. This today's episode is about photosynthesis, and I'm just going to get right into it. Later on in the episode, we'll have a guest, but I won't spoil that for now. First, I'd like to just lay down a definition of photosynthesis for anybody that doesn't know. And essentially, photosynthesis is the process of the absorption of light, carbon, and water into a plant, which then produces carbohydrates for itself to grow and oxygen as a waste product. Um, and there are two main steps to photosynthesis, which are the light-dependent reactions and the Calvin cycle. During the light-dependent reactions, chlorophyll will absorb the light, and then light energy is passed to other chlorophyll molecules, which then excite an electron to the extent that it is transferred to a primary electron acceptor. A water molecule is split, and this releases an electron and forms oxygen and hydrogen ions. And then ATP and NADPH uh, are absorbed as carrier molecules from sunlight. Uh, I like to say that you can think of sunlight as being a match, and then water and carbon being fireworks. The carbohydrates would be the resounding explosion from that firework. And then just to lay down a little bit of history for photosynthesis, we have an article found by Jamie. Jan Baptista van Helmont was a Belgian chemist that started the discovery of photosynthesis in the 1600s when he was experimenting on a willow tree. Helmont found that the tree grew because of the water and not just the soil, not the soil. And then later in 1733, Joseph Priestley found that plants restored air, and the restoration of air was because it was so-called damaged or ruined from either, I believe it was candles or mice. And then the uh, most important early breakthrough of photosynthesis was made by I believe it's Ingenhousz, and they discovered that plants use light to produce oxygen in the late 1770s. So first, it could be assumed that plants produced air, and then later down the line, it was discovered that they produced oxygen. And then I'd like to go into just a little bit of the definition of what an autotroph is. And an autotroph is referred to as a self-feeder, and they're also called producers. They are essentially just organisms that can produce their own food. And plants are photoautotrophs because photoautotrophs use sunlight and carbon to create energy. And this foreshadows a little bit about our guest coming up. Um, and oxygenic photosynthesis also led to the rise of atmospheric oxygen around 2.4 billion years ago when it was, kind of first on the scene. And then I would like to talk about the Calvin cycle. I know we kind of skipped around, but the Calvin cycle has three main stages: the carbon fixation, reduction, and regeneration. And in this process, it uh, basically just turns carbon into uh, the carbohydrate, the sugar. And ATP and NADPH are used to fuel this process. ATP, excuse me, is turned into ADP, and NADPH is turned into uh, NADP positive, and then just a hydrogen positive molecule. And before the regeneration stage is where carbon sugar is extracted from the cycle. And then I would like to just dip into uh, some of the current events surrounding climate or surrounding photosynthesis. And that's not to say that there are any huge breakthroughs. Photosynthesis is very, very sound, very studied. As we learned in the history, it's been studied for over 300 years. So we know a lot about it, but what we have been applying it to recently is the issue of climate change. And in the past 40 years, global photosynthesis has risen by about 12% because of increased carbon emissions in the world. Um, and this article that was linked to me just discusses how the shift from animal to plant-based food would not only decrease emissions from the production of animal products, because as we know, the production of animal products like meat, eggs, dairy, uh, all are very high in carbon emissions, astronomically so. But if we, as a society, as everyone on the planet, as if we shifted to a predominantly plant-based diet, not only would we see extremely decreased emissions from the lessened production of animal products, but global oxygen levels would also increase because as a shift to plant-based diets occur, photosynthesis levels will increase as well. It's just how it would go. And photosynthesis is being taken into account um, to meet the global emission targets that world governments have set in the past few years. All right, and with that, I would like to introduce our guest today, Jeremiah Pland, and I'll let him introduce himself. Hello, Joshua. I am Jeremiah Pland, and I can produce my own food via photosynthesis. That's amazing. That's incredible. We aren't able to meet in person, just due to complications. So this is remote. But I would like to ask you a few questions, Jeremiah. Oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I am happy to answer any questions. And okay, great. So I think first up would probably be, chlorophyll is the main molecule that absorbs sunlight and allows for the process of photosynthesis to take place. Uh, and photosynthesis, or sorry, excuse me, chlorophyll, it reflects green light. It absorbs everything except green light. So I think a natural question would be, Jeremiah, does your skin appear green? No, it does not, Joshua. I'm just like anyone else. I have normal pigmented skin. There is a little bit of a green tinge, but no more than, someone who's got the flu. That's great. Well, um, do you have to eat food as well as your photosynthesis process, or is it can you rely only on the photosynthesis? So I do have to eat a little bit of food each and every day. I'm not able to rely fully on photosynthesis, unfortunately. It just is not it's not possible with the amount, especially with the amount of sun that I get. Perhaps it would be possible if I lived in somewhere like the Bahamas, uh, but not where I'm at currently. Great, great. And I was discussing earlier, I'm not sure if you were in the Zoom at that time, but I was talking about how the world governments are discussing just how big of an impact photosynthesis is going to have on climate change in the coming years. Just kind of shifting over to a plant-based diet. Um, and I was just wondering, is there any kind of like process that you're going through to try to reach out to other people so that maybe more people can start, using photosynthesis to produce their food. Yes. So my government is actually uh, conducting tests on me about every day just to figure out how I'm able to do this. I don't know. Um, I don't know if my if any of my ancestors knew that if they were able to or if they were able to. Um, but yeah, we're trying to figure out why I can do this, how I can do this, and if it can be replicated in other individuals to sort of be able to, spread spread the ability around, allow other people to be able to photosynthesize as well. I think it would be great. It sounds great. I'm sure many students have thought about it themselves in class when they're learning about photosynthesis for the first time. It would be pretty wonderful. So you were saying how you weren't your relatives, your parents, their parents, they weren't aware at least, or they didn't tell you anything about this ability that may have been passed down to you. No, they haven't. They from their knowledge, they are not able to, uh, photosynthesize. It may be that they can. It's just not to an extent that is noticeable. I only noticed when I was going on a very large cut. I was working out and I was just trying to lose a lot of weight, and I realized that I could kind of just sunbathe each day and still have my nutrients for that day. Um, at least at least during that cut. Now I'm kind of in a maintenance period, and I don't want to, keep losing weight, as it would be unhealthy. But yeah, I that's when I kind of figured it out. I could just kind of sort of feel it in my body. Wow, that's incredible. Do you know? Have there been any breakthroughs on why you're able to? Not not yet. We have kind of a few ideas, but nothing secure yet, and nothing I'm able to talk about. Unfortunately, it's all very hush hush. But if I had to place a guess, it was Joe. Have you seen Spider-Man 3, the one with Tobey Maguire? I have, yeah. I love that movie. It's great. It's a little goofy at times, but nonetheless charming. Yeah. Well, so as you know, then the Sandman, he falls into this particle accelerator. And I fell into something similar. It was not a particle accelerator, but I'm legally not allowed to tell you what it was. But I did fall into something, and that is kind of where the ideas are heading. Don't tell anybody though. It's very hush hush. This is all hypothetical. Who's to say? This was all in a video game that I'm talking about. Not not in real life. I am not legally liable uh, for what I just said. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's all in Minecraft. All in Minecraft. But wow, that's wonderful in Minecraft, of course, not in real life. Yeah. It it never really had any health effects on me, and so I just assumed that I was fine, and turns out I was a little bit more than fine. Um, yeah. Anything else about that? I think we're good.
All right, so let's get into some questions on Instagram at Biologically Inclined Podcast. Yes, let's get into it. So underscore Riley Lauren wrote in and she said, "Do you do photosynthesis?" Pretty on topic. Yes, I do. I do photosynthesis, um, and we're trying to look into if other people can. Yeah, exactly. So Jose Mendoza wrote in. He said, "How do plants eat the sun?" Well, we don't really. Well, I can't speak for plants, but I don't eat the sun. I just absorb it along with carbon and H2O to produce carbohydrates, sugar, to fuel my body. So I guess in a way, I do absorb the sun. All right, I do eat the sun, and that's by absorption. And then Maxwell.mp3, he says, "What would be the global sociogeographic effects if humans could photosynthesize?" That's a big one. Thank you, Max. I would say that the sociogeographic effects would be that if we're able to kind of imbue this ability onto other people, I believe that places around the equator would become much denser in population, just because I would assume that people would want to take full advantage of the ability to photosynthesize. Yeah, exactly. I know I would. I would be going straight for the Bahamas if I could photosynthesize, or Hawaii or something like that. Lydia Mel wrote in. She said, "Sun." Well, I don't quite know what you mean by that, Lydia, but I would say yes, sun. And then let's see. Eric _ Santella wrote in. He said, "Is it yummy for plants?" That's actually a great question, Eric. I'm not a plant, so I can't answer on their behalf. But for me, photosynthesis, it has a very faint taste. It's a little bit like lemon and lavender, if I could put it. Yeah, just a little bit. Taste a little bit of lemon and lavender, but it's not very strong. It's just a very faint taste whenever I'm sunbathing. It sounds amazing. I love lavender. I love lemon. Lily Goring wrote in. She says, "Describe it in 3 words or less." Do you want to take a crack at it, Jeremiah? Sure, I would love to. Let's see. Light absorbed energy. And I would say it's a good description. I would say sun produces food. Yeah. And then Emma _ Gach wrote in. She says, "What's photosynthesis equation?" And the equation for photosynthesis is CO2 plus H2O when transformed through the sun's light energy and the processes that we brought up or that we talked about earlier, equals sugars, so carbohydrates, plus oxygen. So the sugar to allow the plant to grow, and then the oxygen as a waste product. And then let's see, can we get one more question to end the episode out? Ali Rosselli wrote in, and she says, "Why are photosystems 1 and 2 backwards? Is this for the final? I'm probably too late." And so the answer to that is that photosystem 2, it comes first in the path of electron flow, but it's named photosystem 2 because it was just simply discovered after photosystem 1. And so, yeah, the electron comes from the splitting of water in photosystem 2, and then that releases oxygen as a waste product. And then in photosystem 1, the electron will come from chloroplast electron transport chain. Yes, that's exactly right. Did anybody tell you that you're a very smart guy, Joshua? You know your stuff. Oh, thank you very much. I pride myself on that. Yeah, well, you should. All right, so that does it for the questions. Let's open a little bit of fan mail. We have one package sent in. It's this kind of, it's a yellow case. It has some marking on it in black. It appears to be like a bunch of crescent moons, kind of designed in some sort of triangle shape. It's not quite a triangle though. Looks like a lot of sickles. It says Biohazard. Yeah. Let's take a look at that. We'll open that. And then that's our only piece of fan mail. So after that, the episode will be over. Thank you so much for listening, excuse me. And yeah, let's take a crack at this Biohazard container.